Joining us now is Kurt Schlichter. Kurt, the House of Representatives melodrama is continuing. How should we think about all this?
Well, I'd like to think about, is there a plan? I mean, look, I was no big fan of McCarthy. I'm no big fan of Mike Johnson. What's the plan, though, Charlie? What are we going to do if we don't have Mike Johnson? And I don't foreclose the possibility there's a better speaker out there. Although a lot of people seem to misunderstand what a speaker does. They want the guy who's most ideologically copacetic, and that's not what he does. He's really a conductor, a traffic director, a guy who puts together coalitions and raises money. As long as he's not undermining you, he's probably okay ideologically. But again, what's the plan, Andy Biggs? You know, what's the plan, Massey? Chip Roy, who I like. What's the plan, Chip? What's the plan? I'd like to know. Because if you don't have a plan, you're going to fail. So
no, and I agree. I think, Kurt, if you were to ask them privately, they would say the plan is performative, which I think is silly. However, is there a place in politics for, like, we're at least going to put up the motions of some sort of a fight? Or is that just completely silly and should be dismissed?
Well, look, we have been putting up a fight. We beat back that 1,500-page atrocity and, did a continuing resolution, which is bad, but it was nowhere near as bad as what we beat down. So we are making progress. Look, we're going to take 2 steps forward and 1 step back. And I think we need to stop as a movement expecting perfection all the time. On the other hand, we also cannot never expect perfection. You were very eloquent when you were saying, oh, well, we can't do it. It's too close to the election. It's Christmas vacation. My dog's at the veterinarian's. We can't get this passed. We don't have to accept that. That's not what I'm saying. What I'm saying is that we need to understand that we've got a 3 to 4 vote majority. That's going to be tight. It's going to give individual congressmen the chance to be showboats, and human nature says that out of about 222 congressmen, you're going to have a few who want to get that spotlight, and the way they get that spotlight is by saying no. So we're in a tough position. I think we'd be in a much better position if we had more congressmen, and I think if we had Kevin McCarthy, as much as I have problems with Kevin McCarthy, and I certainly do. I think we would have had. I think we'd have won more seats because he's a very savvy operator, even if he does make me want to pound my head into the wall sometimes. So we are where we are. We got to make the best of it, and that means acting as adults and trying to achieve 90% of what we want rather than 0%.
Here is the update right now. Is that as we're here live, 4 Republicans, Biggs, Cloud, Gosar, and Harris, have not responded to the speaker vote. And, of course, Carson, as Democrat as well. They then get to go at the end and kind of do some melodrama. I would not be surprised if this goes to a second and third ballot. Kurt, let's assume that Johnson does survive. Are there should there at least be a forcing function of more concessions and more agreements to try to make sure we don't get another continuing resolution? What compromises could legitimately be offered?
Well, look, I would love to get back to regular order, but that's going to take more than – look, I think that's going to take more than 4 or 5 people forcing it. I think you need a commitment on the part of the entire Republican caucus. And unfortunately, we don't have that. I mean, look, I've got – today, I'm vaguely annoyed with the guys who aren't jumping on board. But let's understand the root of the problem is a lot of these appropriator Republicans who are hardcore conservatives right up to Election Day. Then they come back to Washington and it's off to steak dinners and hanging with the lobbyists. We need an ideological commitment to putting the America First agenda that the American people voted for with Donald Trump and overwhelmingly in the Senate into effect in the House. And it's, I think we saw some beneficial stuff happening over in the Senate, where we got focused on people who were trying to be glory hogs. I mean, Joni Ernst, before she brought the spotlight on herself with this whole Hamlet act over Pete Hegseth, did you know she was a giant squish who supported the Langford immigration abomination and the Cornyn gun control thing? I didn't know that. I just thought she was a relatively inoffensive backbencher. And then she threw the spotlight on herself. We all saw it. And boy, she beat a hasty retreat. I think we need to do that to some congressmen.